Perhaps I could do lots of swearing and shouting and gesticulation. Luke? Yeah? You out?
Sky Sports? Or?
Yeah, yeah. It's the Golf Channel.
Oh, there you go.
They're looking for good-looking chaps. I left the Royal Air Force in 1996, some 13, 14 years ago, and since then I've been a commercial pilot. I live in Stamford in England, in Lincolnshire, which is actually close to the RAF base from which I operated during the Falklands War. Referee?
Y dada la situación que creó el conflicto bélico, es decir, haber concurrido, haber perdido gente, es decir, gente muerta que pertenecía a la Compañía de Sanidad 3, el hospital. La derrota que sufrimos y todo eso produjo en mí un estado de no querer permanecer más dentro de la fuerza. Como tampoco me resulta agradable ahora volver al hospital, ¿no? Ay, Dios mío, Dios mío. ¿Qué tal, señora? ¿Cómo le va? ¿Cómo anda?
Bien, ¿usted cómo le va? Muy bien, acá andamos, todo bien.
¿Y el director?
Ahí subió.
Sí, estuvo con nosotros.
Ahora lo voy a ver.
Ah, vale.
Cuestión de educación.
Un abrazo, negro.
Gracias, hasta luego. Esta se sacó, sí, en el aeropuerto. Ahí estaba la muchachada. Bueno, está bien, déjenla nomás. Que quede para el recuerdo. Otra cosa no va a servir. ¿Cómo te va? ¿Estás viejito? ¿Y qué va a hacer?
¿Qué tal?
Encantado,
bienvenido,
un gusto,
¿Cómo está usted?
teniente coronel, bien, gracias.
Un gusto
gracias.
recibirlo.
Y bueno, acá me trajeron.
Su hija, por lo que veo.
¿Y qué le voy a decir que no?
Bueno,
Imposible.
bueno, bienvenido.
Gracias desde ya.
Por favor.
Ay, Dios.
Bueno, de los tres pabellones que funcionaban en su época, en este momento funciona uno, que es el pabellón era de oficiales. Bueno,
Claro,
ahora
sí.
alberga oficiales, suboficiales,
Sí.
soldados, agentes civiles. Esto se ha achicado un poco.
Bueno, muchachos, aflojen. Déjense de joder. Bastante sufrí ahí adentro.
Crecí en un barrio militar. Era como una burbuja separada del resto del mundo por un alambrado. Teníamos parques, canchas de deporte y pileta. No tenía amigos afuera. Todos mis compañeros de juego también eran hijos de militares. Los domingos veíamos películas proyectadas en un cine privado del comando de la brigada, y a la salida jugábamos felices alrededor de los tanques de guerra. Recién en mi adolescencia supe de los secuestros, las torturas y los asesinatos que los militares cometieron durante la dictadura. Pero no podía unir los relatos de los sobrevivientes con los recuerdos del barrio militar de mi infancia. En ese momento decidí pensar que al lado de mi casa no había sucedido nada.
Were you on the TLP in Germany when you heard?
Yeah, tactical leadership program, which
Yeah.
was if you remember, it was a 4-week course.
Yes.
I'd done the week's ground school, and then there was going to be 3 weeks of flying, and during that first week of flying, I was recalled because of this
Yes.
the Argentinian invasion, and I was really annoyed because I was enjoying the flying.
Yes.
And a good set of people from RF Germany I was flying with, and it was an annoyance to have to come home, and I didn't really understand what was going on.
So that would have been about the middle of April.
Yeah,
Time, yeah.
second week of April or so. Yeah.
Well, I was quite busy when the invasion happened, and because I was preparing we were working up training to go to Canada, the big exercise.
That's right, Maple
flying.
That's right. Yeah.
And I was organising the ferry across the Atlantic, to kick the airplanes over and all that stuff. So I was really running around, working very hard. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, 3rd of April, it was on the news. And I saw it on the news, I think, in the evening. And almost immediately, my brother rang. My brother is an army officer, he's in British army officer.
Yeah.
In the infantry. And he just rang up and he started singing "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina" on the telephone.
Yeah.
Which is his sense of humour. And he said, "Are you likely to get involved in this?" And I said, "Well, no way. I can't see that we are. We've got no commitment to go on board ship." At that time, I thought, there's no way it's going to involve us.
La mañana del 2 de abril, cuando me levanté para iniciar las actividades, que a las 6 de la mañana yo tengo costumbre colocar la radio para ver las noticias que Y ahí me encontré con la toma de las islas por parte de la República Argentina. Y bueno, mi primera reacción fue, por supuesto, de alegría. Pero después me puse a pensar de que desgraciadamente era muy lindo eso, pero que íbamos a tener que ir nosotros a las islas.
We'd been told we were going down there as support for the Sea Harriers in the air defence role.
That's right.
I thought, great, which means air defence, flying with the Sidewinders,
Yeah.
nice and easy. We were looking forward to that, because I always like that kind of stuff. But I thought, I bet they won't let us do much of that. I bet we'll end up doing ground attack and recce. You know, I was sure we would. So I insisted that we also did some extra weapon training, CBU training.
And we did those big rockets,
firing.
the Navy rockets, didn't we? Yeah.
Lots of range work as well thrown in. Some anti-shipping stuff practice against a shipping target on Hormuz. We did that, unfortunately, because halfway down there when we sailed, we were told halfway, you're not doing air defence, you guys will do ground attack.
Yeah.
And my heart sank when I heard that. I really thought...
But was that because the Navy had lost
They'd lost quite a few by then. They'd lost Nick Taylor, John Eaton-Jones disappeared, he was killed, and his wingman. So they had 3 guys killed.
Yeah.
They'd lost about 4 or 5 airplanes by then. And they're having big trouble with they thought they were going to have big trouble with the air defence job. So they needed all their Sea Harriers for that. And they couldn't do any more ground attack. They didn't want to do any more ground attack.
Yeah, yeah.
It was too dangerous.
Yeah.
And the Admiral said, right, no, the RAF will do it.
Yeah.
Y nos dieron la orden verbal aproximadamente y 5 o 6 días antes. El general Parada, en su despacho, me mandó a llamar y me dijo que preparara la compañía de sanidad para marchar agregado a el comando de brigada de infantería 3. Nos trasladaron a todo el personal con los elementos personales, pero no así, no se había trasladado todo el material de campaña que había quedado en territorio argentino. Y el material de campaña consistía en carpas, camillas, paquetes de curaciones, antibióticos, yeso, anestésicos, instrumental quirúrgico, es innumerable, que son imprescindibles para poder actuar médicamente.
But all the way down, the news coming in was very sobering. At one stage, we were halfway there and we heard from the Argentine news broadcast. They said they'd officially declared our convoy as a target.
That's right.
So
what got me on that journey, for the first time I realised that it was game on, was when Sheffield was sunk.
Oh yeah.
Bueno, la orden de combate la dio el comandante de la brigada, en ese momento era el general Parada, donde distribuyó los diferentes componentes de la brigada que iba a cruzar a Puerto Howard, Bahía Howard. Solo fuimos trasladados un muy pequeño grupo de oficiales, es decir, médico, bioquímico, odontólogo, 3 suboficiales y 2 soldados.
The closer we got to the islands, we'd been told, well, you're going to do ground attack a lot. This is going to be a mess. This will be difficult. It's now going to get really difficult. And then we started getting briefings by the Navy as to how they were going to run the ground attack. And we realised, I realised they didn't have a clue. They didn't have an idea how to do it. Not a clue. They were just winging it, just guessing.
Yeah.
So that was not a good start.
Recién en Puerto Howard, recién recibimos parte del material de campaña médico, parte, nunca llegamos a completar lo que correspondía. Recuerdo que en el los primeros heridos que recibimos no contábamos con la camilla de cirugía de campaña. Nos manejábamos con las mesas de ese club social, mesas cuadradas de un bar. Las uníamos y se hacía una camilla. Y trabajábamos en esas mesas.
Yeah, it was not very comfortable because there was all the time you were on board there was a fear of, first of all, submarine attack.
Yeah.
Because the Argentinian had two submarines which we were afraid were in our area or could actually attack us. And so we weren't allowed to sleep anywhere below the waterline aboard the ship. And also we had to be prepared at any time for a torpedo hit. So all the watertight doors would be shut most of the time. And every time you went through a door you had to shut it again.
And you were carrying the flash gear.
And you had, all the time you had anti-flash gear.
Yeah.
That's in case of air attack, really. Which was a hood put over your head and long white gloves.
Yeah.
Protect you against flash burns.
Yeah.
It's very important to have that. And the next problem was air attack, because they were very concerned about the Argentinian super entendres with the Exocets.
Yeah.
Because they had proved that they were actually very good with this Exocet, and they could hit the targets pretty well. They'd hit Sheffield already, and they obviously wanted to get Hermes.
Yeah, they were prize assets.
So I was on board when we had the Exocet attack, which sank Atlantic Conveyor. Yeah, which is quite unnerving.
Y bueno, los heridos eran evidentemente producidos por el combate, ya sea heridos por bombardeo aéreo, por bombardeo de las fragatas y por lesiones, desgraciadamente, que fue la mayoría, que se infligían los soldados al no tener la precaución o la falta de instrucción. Las armas estaban con bala en la recámara, es decir, cargadas y sin seguro, y cuando las dejaban apoyadas y caían, se disparaban. Y eso, desgraciadamente, hería a la propia tropa. También tuvimos atenciones por frío. La humedad y el frío traía el famoso pie de trinchera. Y desgraciadamente después por la falta de alimento, que sumado al estrés de la situación hacía que los soldados, que fueran insuficientes la cantidad de calorías que recibíamos, por lo cual nos producía un gran adelgazamiento.
I was on again with Peter Squire. We were the second mission of the day to support the amphibious landings in San Carlos by the British Army, and we got airborne, but unfortunately Peter Squire's undercarriage, the landing gear didn't come up, so he had to return to land back on the carrier, having burnt off some fuel. So I set off to the Falklands on the support mission, and I spoke to HMS Antrim, who were running the forward air controller side of the air war, and they gave me targets in the Port Howard area, a target to go and attack, and I was carrying cluster bomb units, and so I planned this attack in the Port Howard area, rushed through there at low level, didn't see any targets, and actually the target area as given to me was very close to the small settlement, small village of Port Howard. So I'd have been very loath to drop any weaponry so close to the civilian population.
No sé por qué, pero ese día era un día especial. Por la mañana me levanto como de costumbre, a las 6 de la mañana nos levantábamos. Por supuesto amanecía 7:30, 8, recién empezaba a amanecer. Y me dirijo a donde estaba lo que era la compañía de comunicaciones, otra casa que ocupaba la compañía de comunicaciones con sus radios. Ellos tenían un baño con bañadera. Por supuesto, me quito la ropa, me introduzco en el agua, me enjabono, y en ese interín siento que el ruido de 2 aviones, por supuesto, aviones argentinos no eran Sea Harrier. Lo más gracioso de esto es que yo pensé que si bombardeaban y yo moría en ese momento, la viuda no cobraría por encontrarme sin el uniforme. Vea usted qué incongruencia, ¿no? Bueno, por supuesto salí inmediatamente, me vestí a medio bañar, pero hacía tanto tiempo que no me bañaba. Y a su vez me falta agregar que cuando pasaron los aviones faltaba que le tiraran con la zapatilla a esos aviones, porque se escuchaban disparos de cualquier ruido, calibre, tipo, al avión. Salgo, todo el mundo estaba con las armas, le habían tirado ese avión. Y bueno, pasó.
So then I climbed back to about 15,000-20,000 feet over the islands again to speak to HMS Antrim, and they really didn't have any further suggestions, so I suggested to them that I went back through that target area and took reconnaissance photographs, so that way if there were any targets, then future pilots would have a much better idea of the terrain and where the troops were dug in, etc., etc., and how close it was to the village. So about 15-20 minutes after my first time through there, I was back on a different attack direction, doing a little over 500 knots. But this time the Argentinian forces were ready for me, and that's when I got shot down. I was doing about 510 knots. I was overflying the sea, but the land was coming up, and I was just about to, I just raised the nose to sort of coast in. So I was probably about 150-200 feet above the sea, and I didn't see anything, but I just heard 3 large bangs in real quick succession, and the aircraft was out of control, just went into a very fast, what we call an aileron roll, a fast spot roll, and I can remember it quite vividly. You know, there were a few thoughts went through my mind. First of all, well, the controls aren't working. The second thing, I was upside down, and the canopy was just wall to wall water. And then the third thought was, I've got to time this right. And as I came towards the upright again, I just looked down and saw my hand pull the handle, and out I went. And I heard the crack of the miniature detonating cord, which exploded the canopy, and that was my last thought. My next thought was when I came to regain consciousness underwater. I was about 6 foot under, and the sunny side was up, and I just flapped my way to the surface. So I didn't have any recollection of the ejection itself or the parachute ride, and so that was me on the surface flapping around, having survived being shot down.
I was quite angry, first of all, that he'd been allowed to go on his own on the mission, because he was in fact our most junior pilot at the time, the newest to the squadron. And I don't think he should have been allowed to continue on his own. Having said that, we were delighted to hear he'd survived, and when I found out much later what he had done when he got shot down, I thought it was fine. I thought he did very well in the circumstances. People say he made a big mistake coming back the second time. It's easy to say that sitting here at home comfortably, but we were in a very difficult situation, and we often had to make second attacks, re-attacks on targets, otherwise we wouldn't have got the targets. That was how the war was down there.
I was in a state of shock because I wasn't thinking logically or correctly. I was kept buoyant on the surface of the water basically by the buoyancy of my immersion suit, which is like a wetsuit. I had a Mae West, a life jacket, which I should have inflated, but I never did. I had a dinghy, a survival dinghy attached, partly attached to the Mae West, and I should have inflated the dinghy, but I didn't. And I was just flapping around like an idiot for 5 or 10 minutes, I'm not quite sure how long, just in a state of shock. And my first, I think I thought, oh, I ought to inflate this dinghy. And I didn't inflate the Mae West, which I should have done first. And I was just thinking I ought to inflate this dinghy when I heard voices and looked around, and the rowing boat was arriving from the shore with some Argentinian soldiers on it. And at that point I thought I'd reach for my gun, which again was a bit of a stupid thought, because there were about half a dozen Argentinian soldiers with rifles, and there was me flapping around the water thinking of getting my gun out. But in fact, in the rush to go from the ops room to the aeroplane on the flight line, I'd forgotten to get my gun, and so I didn't have a gun, which was probably a good idea, because if I'd started waving my gun around I might have got shot. So that was probably a good thing. So then I got picked up by the soldiers, plucked out of the water, and then we rowed to shore, and that was the end of the war for me.
Y bajan al piloto, por supuesto, en forma horizontal, porque no estaba en buenas condiciones físicas, evidente. Lo ingresan a la compañía de sanidad, se lo pasa a la camilla de cirugía, que era lo que teníamos. Se procede a sacarle el traje, el uniforme, el traje presurizado que llevan, y se constata que, en primer lugar, ya se constató cuando llegó que presentaba una herida cortante en la cara, en el rostro, parte de frente y en la cara del lado derecho, y después una luxación del hombro derecho. Hicimos algo muy sencillo, procedimos a hacerle un vendaje de Belpó, es decir, tratándole de llevar el hombro lo más posible a su lugar, y bueno, y se le hicieron analgésicos, antibióticos, y se lo internó en un catre, se lo aisló del resto de lo que era el personal internado argentino. Mediante sábana se lo aisló. Una vez que se encontraba estabilizado el piloto inglés, me dirijo a la compañía de comunicaciones, donde entablo una comunicación con el comando de la brigada, donde informo que se encontraba un piloto inglés herido en la compañía de sanidad 3. Inmediatamente me indican que lo presione para poder tratar de ubicar la posición del portaaviones, de donde había despegado.
¿Por qué le dan esa orden a usted?
Y bueno, me dan esa orden porque yo estaba a cargo de la compañía de sanidad. Y como creí que no correspondía actuar de la manera como me lo plantearon, y dada la Convención de Ginebra, jamás procedí a efectuar lo que me habían pedido. Es decir, ¿por qué? Porque mi desempeño, mi labor profesional es como médico.
En el pasado, previo a este conflicto en las Malvinas, ¿había recibido órdenes similares de presidente?
No, jamás recibí una orden de ese tipo. Y de haberla recibido no lo hubiera cumplido, evidentemente.
¿Alguna vez tuvo alguna consecuencia por no haber cumplido esa orden?
No, en absoluto.
Papá se negó a responder en cámara qué quería decir con presionar. ¿Se refería a torturar? ¿Podía su jefe, el general Parada, desconocer semejante orden? ¿Acaso los generales argentinos creían que con la información que quizás tuviera un prisionero inglés podían hundir la flota británica? Aquello me llevó a pensar en lo que podía ocurrir en los cuarteles de mi pueblo cuando mi papá integraba un ejército capaz de dar y ejecutar esas órdenes. Entonces busqué respuestas. Envié una lista con los nombres de todos los militares que tuvieron contacto con Jeff Glover, incluido el de mi papá, a organismos de derechos humanos. Tenía que saber si estaban implicados en crímenes de lesa humanidad.
Well, one of the worst things was at about 7:15 that evening, there apparently had been a curfew at 7 o'clock, and a young soldier had come back to the sort of Port Howard area late because he didn't have a watch or whatever, and he'd been shot by his one of his fellow soldiers, and he'd got a bullet in each thigh. And I remember him coming into this field hospital screaming, which wasn't a lot of fun. But he'd got back. He'd got back late after the curfew, so poorly placed. Yeah. Oh, and then another thing. I think the following day, or even that evening, a Falkland Islander, a lady, had arrived at this field hospital insisting that I get a bar of chocolate. That she was giving me a bar of chocolate, and she was most insistent that I got it, which was very nice of her. And in fact, I saw her about 18 months later and was able to say thank you.
Did they try to interrogate you at any time?
No, there wasn't any interrogation. Once I'd given my name, rank, date of birth, etc., the chap who'd picked me out of the water, or the boss man, was a capitano medico commando. Nice chap, good professional soldier, and no, there was no tactical immediate interrogation. No, they sort of left me alone. In fact, it looked after me very well.
Al día siguiente lo vinieron a buscar y el personal que lo había atendido lo saludó, se le dio la mano. No se lo abrazó ni le dimos un beso, pero sí se lo saludó correctamente. Fue un hecho trascendente, es decir, por lo menos vimos un inglés.
Yo estaba en el helicóptero y el helicóptero iba hacia Howard y lo veo a Clover caminando con sus muletas. Yo estaba tomando, me habían dado una taza de café, los helicópteristas. Entonces apenas lo veo y tiene el mismo uniforme que yo. Y lo primero que hago, le digo, you like, si quería una taza de café. Él en realidad explota un poco de emoción porque me ve a mí el mismo uniforme, se da cuenta que soy un par de él, los dos pilotos de caza. Los pilotos de caza son más o menos internacionalmente, tienen códigos parecidos.
I'd flown to Goose Green in the helicopter with Pablo Llanos, Commando Medico Capitano, and I was stood with him after we'd got out of the helicopter, and he'd gone for a couple of minutes. Then he came back and rejoined me, and he said that at higher level there was some sort of argument or battle as to who should keep me as a prisoner, and he said the Air Force wanted to keep me, but the Army wanted to keep me as well. So I remember thinking I just wanted to be kept by the Air Force, not necessarily logically, but just because I was an Air Force officer, I think I'd rather have been held by the Air Force. I'd read stories about, the way in which the Army had sometimes, in which people had disappeared when civilians in the hands of the Army, of the previous years in Argentina. So I think all in all, I preferred to be kept by the Air Force than the Army. I stayed in a house with some young Army officers who were, they were going out on patrol and then, maybe out for 4 hours and came back for 4 hours. But I stayed there arrived there late afternoon, and I think I left the following lunchtime, but I was sort of kept in the same house as them. The journey to the helicopter's Chinook journey to Port Stanley was quite exciting, low-level flying in the Chinook, with everybody's eyes open, including my own, looking for Sea Harriers that might have attacked us, but none did, fortunately. And then arrived at Port Stanley. I think we landed on the race course, the horse racing course, and then I was transferred to the school, which was had been taken over as a medical centre. And the first thing I remember was walking into the big school hall, and on the floor, on the sort of haunches, were, I don't know, maybe 100 or 200 really young looking soldiers, and they were all watching Tom and Jerry on a screen at the front of the hall, and they all had their shoes or boots and socks off, presumably with, as I subsequently learned, trench foot, damp feet or damp skin or whatever. And I just thought this was really strange. All these really young soldiers, maybe 15, 16, 17, they really looked like kids watching Tom and Jerry in the middle of a war. And the other side to that experience was having travelled down in the Norland with two para, and they all looked a little bit older, bigger and harder, and they were watching war films and sort of violent films, or Clint Eastwood shooting everybody up type films. I don't think they'd have been watching Tom and Jerry somehow, and I just thought, this looks like men versus boys. I think it was Air Force doctors from then on in, and they sort of gave me a good examination and sort of put my shoulder into a loose sling and generally tidied me up. I remember getting some stitches put in my lip, although that might have been Port Howard, I forget now. But it was generally well looked after there.
Bueno, ahí un buen día viene el servicio de inteligencia y me dice, se quiere ir al continente porque esto se rinde. ¿Cómo se rinde? Yo estaba convencido que se había... No, las tropas están replegando hacia Puerto Argentino y aquí van a quedar todos prisioneros. Le digo, hoy a la madrugada sale un avión 630, va a llegar un avión 630 y vamos a tratar de trasladar a los heridos que más urgencia tienen para estar en el continente. Y usted está dentro de ellos. Sí, me voy. Entonces me meten en una ambulancia a las 4 de la mañana con Globel. Con Globel hablamos, no sé qué pasa, no, nos llevan al continente. Y Globel abrió los ojos como diciendo, pero nos van a derribar. Le digo, ¿en qué nos llevan? En el 630. No puede ser, nos van a derribar, decía. No quería él viajar. Y le digo, sí, nos vamos. Entonces llegamos al aeropuerto, 4 de la mañana, me bajan en una silla de ruedas, yo ya estaba canalizado y con un tubito de oxígeno en el otro manubrio de la silla de ruedas, que lo abría con la máscara atada y tenía que respirar por el tema de mi hundimiento de tórax o de esternón, y tenía que racionalizarlo. Cortaba, respiraba un poco y seguía. Y canalizado, y Glover con las muletas al lado mío. En ese momento hay una alerta roja, que una alerta roja es cuando sonaban las sirenas y hubo un ataque de Harrier. No me olvido nunca cómo quedaron las muletas de Glover, porque salió corriendo como estaba, dejó las muletas paraditas prácticamente y se tiró en un pozo de zorro. Y yo me quedé, tiré el suero, me acuerdo, me quedó ahí como un auto de novia, porque quedó ahí el suero, y giraba con una sola mano, y después traté de girar con la otra hasta que alguien me tira en un pozo de zorro. Termina el ataque, se siente vibrar la tierra así, todo embarrado nuevamente al continente, al hospital.
I remember being a little apprehensive about that flight, because you imagine the Hercules would be quite an easy target for the Sea Harriers, and on the flight were other other Argentinian pilots who'd ejected from Mirage and Pucara and A4. I remember just sort of nodding to them. They had not dissimilar injuries to me, you know, black eyes or whatever, or maybe a broken arm or something or whatever. But yeah, interesting. You know, they just sort of nodded to each other, didn't necessarily converse, but then landed in Commodore Rivadavia, still in the dark.
¿En qué condiciones llegó Jeff Glover a Comodoro Rivadavia?
Primero muy asustado, porque no tenía ni idea de lo que le podía ocurrir. Es decir, llegó al hospital, ahí lo tranquilizamos, le hicimos un vendaje definitivo, un vendaje de Belpo para inmovilizarle el hombro. Tenía una fractura que se había ocasionado cuando se eyectó. Entonces le hicimos una reducción, un yeso, y después quedó internado en el hospital, donde, bueno, comía con nosotros. Es decir, como no podía utilizar las dos manos para poder comer, se sentaba al lado mío, al lado de alguno que le cortaba la carne, era lo que comíamos. Y curiosamente en ese momento también estaban transmitiendo el Mundial de Fútbol, así que veía la televisión con nosotros, estaba alojado perfectamente y tuvimos que tranquilizarlo para decirle que no le iba a pasar nada. Posteriormente después lo pasaron al casino de oficiales de Comodoro, de la brigada de Comodoro Rivadavia, y bueno, y ahí no se sentía muy seguro él, entonces me mandó a llamar, tenía confianza conmigo, y lo llevé de nuevo al hospital. Y en el hospital estuvo con nosotros, estaba perfectamente alojado, tenía su calefacción, su cama, un hospital muy confortable, almorzaba y cenaba con nosotros, desayunaba con nosotros, o sea, hacía la misma vida que cualquier internado argentino, ¿no?
¿Por qué no se sentía seguro Glover?
Porque él, como prisionero de guerra, si bien le decíamos que íbamos a respetar todas las convenciones de Ginebra, sería que tenía desconfianza que algo le iba a ocurrir o que se lo iba a torturar, no sé qué le íbamos a hacer. En absoluto no se le hizo absolutamente nada, y la información que él brindó fue la que él quiso y nada más. Es decir, no hubo digamos, abuso por ser prisionero de guerra. Hasta eso respetamos nosotros, ¿no? La consigna era tratar de hablar lo menos posible, es decir, tratarlo, cuidarlo, tratarlo bien, ayudarlo y nada más. El resto era, como ocurre en toda guerra, cuestión de la gente de inteligencia, ¿no? Es decir, tratar de charlar para sacar alguna información, pero bien, o sea, ningún tipo de presión ni nada.
That morning, perhaps in bed, I'd been given a few painkillers, and an Argentinian major, I think probably Air Force major, came in, and there was a little bit of a gentle, sort of mild interrogation type technique, but you know, nothing too exciting. He was talking generalities about the war and you know, what ship had I been on, and you know, I was trying to evade his questions, but I was feeling pretty mellow, I think, from the painkillers. But it was nothing too, well, it wasn't intense at all and not aggressive.
El diario Convicción fue el único que publicó la información de que había un piloto inglés capturado, aunque la dictadura militar todavía no lo había declarado prisionero de guerra. El periódico pertenecía al almirante Emilio Macera, quien integró la junta militar que gobernó la Argentina. Macera también fue el responsable de la ESMA, una escuela de cadetes que se usó como campo clandestino de concentración, por donde pasaron más de 5.000 personas.
This is interesting that you show me this article. I don't quite understand it entirely, but you know, at no point would I have ever have said that you know, my country is doing wrong, or that you know, morale is low and we're likely to lose the war. You know, there's no way I would ever have said anything like that. So I don't know who's attributed these words, or I don't know who's said I've said this, but you know, it's plainly untrue. I never ever met a journalist.
¿Cuál era la actitud de los pilotos argentinos hacia Glover?
Sí, inicialmente muchísima curiosidad, porque sobre todo no tanto en Puerto Argentino, o yo no lo noté tanto, sino en el hospital reubicable de Comodoro Rivadavia, porque estábamos enfrente de mí, estaba él, y todo el mundo curioso para verlo nada más, y él, una persona agradable, se prestó al diálogo normal y nunca hubo ni fricciones ni nada. No fue tratado como un enemigo diabólico, sino era un prisionero de guerra.
I think perhaps I spent just one night in the field hospital, but then I spent 2 nights in their officers' mess, in a room under guard, and one evening, I may have only been there for one evening, an Argentinian pilot came in and said, "I don't agree with what you're doing," but shook my hand and gave me a bottle of wine, which was very nice. So I had a nice bottle of wine that night. I was told that I was flying up to Buenos Aires to be returned to the British via Buenos Aires. I think from Comodoro, taking from a building at Comodoro to the aircraft, I was blindfolded, had a hood over my head, but as I went up the steps of the little executive jet said citation on it, which is how I knew it was a citation aircraft, and then the hood was taken off when I was in the aeroplane, but all the blinds were down on the in the windows. I remember once trying to raise the blind, but then it was sort of put down, and you know, I was told not to do the blind again. So that's right, trying to lift the blind when we were doing the refueling stop, but then they pulled it down again. Then we got airborne again, and so what I thought was Buenos Aires, or somewhere in Buenos Aires, turned out to be Chamical in the middle of nowhere. And as I stepped off the aeroplane, I didn't have a hood then, but I could tell we were in the middle of nowhere.
El 18 de julio de 1976 fueron secuestrados Carlos Murias y Gabriel Longueville, 2 sacerdotes del movimiento tercermundista que se presume fueron torturados y mutilados en la base del Chamical. Sus cadáveres aparecieron sobre las vías del tren. 15 días después, murió en un supuesto accidente el obispo de La Rioja, Enrique Angelelli, que había viajado al Chamical para exigir que los asesinatos no quedaran impunes. El comodoro Luis Estrella, por entonces jefe de la base aérea, está procesado por la justicia por los asesinatos de los 3 religiosos.
que estábamos haciendo las actividades normales, así de todos los días, ¿no? Nos hicieron una formación, nos llevaron a una especie de un hangar que había al fondo de la base, en donde había una pista de aterrizaje, porque decían que venían prisioneros. Nosotros nos imaginábamos, venían prisioneros ingleses, ¿no? Para un avión chico, un tipo Learjet, una cosa así, y bajó una persona, una sola persona bajó. Tenía quebrada la clavícula, una persona en aquella época, te puedo llegar a decir, a lo mejor tenía 30, 35 años, una persona joven. Bueno, lo llevaron al casino de oficiales a esta persona, no sabíamos quién era, ni nada por el estilo, no teníamos idea quién era. Y hicieron una selección de 6, 8 soldados más o menos, en donde estas personas iban a ir a custodiar a este hombre que había llegado. Entre esas personas yo fui seleccionada para ir a custodiarla, que estaba en el casino de oficiales.
Having arrived at Chamikal, this was obviously out in the country, out in the sticks, and it was a pretty sort of dusty sort of place, and sort of run down effectively, and then I got taken to a room, and the first week there was pretty hard because I was just locked up in this room and not allowed out, and the food, two meals a day, was pretty miserable, pretty poor food, and that was the hardest bit of my sort of 7.5 weeks, I guess. Not being allowed out at all and just having the guards come in occasionally with food.
Compartíamos los desayunos con él. Yo por ahí, en vez de desayunar en la base como desayunábamos, que eran bastante pobres los desayunos nuestros, no así la de esta persona que desayunaba muy bien, sabíamos ir para estar con él para poder desayunar lo mismo que él. Él desayunaba café con leche con chocolate, lo que él quisiera tomar. Tenía media luna, café, criollitos, manteca, mermelada de distintos tipos. Lo mismo que los almuerzos y la cena eran bastante abundantes, la de él, no así las nuestras. Entonces nosotros íbamos para compartir ese almuerzo o esa cena con él.
The first week was the most difficult. I mean, there was nothing to do. So, you know, you just try and exercise your mind. I used to try and I'd pick a date and then try and work out what day of the week that would be. Try and suss that out mentally going back, and then try and imagine what I might have been doing on that day, what class I was in at school, who the teacher was, what the subjects were, who the classmates were, whatever. Just trying to pass the time. Pretty mind-numbing experience, you know, a week in a room with nothing to do. I used to think a lot about the ejection, used to think a lot about getting shot down, used to, you know, sort of beat myself up about having lost a Harrier effectively on my first mission and let the side down. Yeah, you were worried for your mates who were, you know, who were still flying combat missions. Yeah, it was a worrying time. You're worried about your family at home, wife, mum and dad, etc., etc. Yeah, I mean, there was all sorts to worry about. Worried about ever getting home, worried about your friends getting home.
No estaba él como uno suele ver así en otros lugares, una persona como un prisionero propiamente dicho. No. Él, cuando necesitaba salir, él tenía muchos beneficios a su favor, de decir, salgo a tomar sol, salgo a caminar, jugaba al ping-pong con nosotros, tenía libros, era como si fuese un oficial más, se lo trató como un oficial más.
And then at the end of that week, things really perked up with the visit of Massimo Cataldi, who was the International Red Cross representative. And initially on his arrival, I didn't believe his credentials, but I guess when he started measuring up the size of the room, etc., and what the furniture was, and just for his records, then I kind of mellowed to him, and when he produced 200 cigarettes and a pack of cards and some books, and an official International Red Cross letter on which I could write a letter to my wife. I think it was a maximum of 25 words, if I recall. I eventually came round to trusting him, and he negotiated that I would be allowed out of the room, I think, for a 2-hour session in a courtyard, and morale improved a lot after his visit, and obviously I then knew that the outside world knew that I was alive and well, and so I knew that eventually I would get home. They took me to a local hospital where they stuck me in a big body cast, plaster cast, and the plaster cast came over the injured shoulder, which did some fairly long-term damage, I think. It wasn't for about, I don't know, another sort of 5 months that I was to get the use of my shoulder and arm again, because I ended up with a frozen shoulder, as it was called, and I think the correct treatment would have been to have left it in a loose sling. But the effect of this body cast, which was really heavy, was effectively to immobilise me as much as anything, I think, and it made life very awkward. Cataldi gave me was a copy of the Geneva Convention, which is pretty boring, but when you haven't got a lot of reading material, you sort of have a glance through it, and because he'd also given me some pen and paper and a biro, I was writing a letter to my wife every other day, but in here, glancing through, then I just drew a line against the paragraphs or articles that Argentina were not complying with as regards the treatment of a prisoner of war. I mean, I did that mainly out of boredom. I wasn't ill-treated, don't get me wrong, but by the letter of the law, perhaps things weren't totally done correctly. One day out in the courtyard, one of the guards brought along a magazine, and they were sort of quite boastful and quite cocky as to how the war was progressing. And I remember them showing me there was a picture of all the ships and all the helicopters and all the Harriers that had been shot down, and I just laughed and said, you know, no chance. And I think they were a bit offended at that, because they were assuming that what was in the magazine was correct, and I was just laughing at it.
Yo tengo una anécdota bastante inocente que siempre la cuento. Cuando estábamos jugando al ping-pong, yo estaba con todo mi uniforme de combate, tenía mi fusil. cuando hicimos el cambio de cancha, yo dejé el fusil mío con los cargadores lleno de balas, lo dejé del lado de él. Entonces ahí te das cuenta la falta de experiencia como soldado, cómo podía ir yo a pelear a una guerra con semejantes profesionales como eran ellos, ¿no? Yo si lo cuento esto, a lo mejor en otro país me dirían, no, pero usted está loco, ¿cómo va a hacer eso? Y bueno, sí, a lo mejor la falta esa de experiencia de que uno era no tenía noción de lo que hacía, no tenía noción de nada, tenía apenas 18 años.
¿Qué hizo el prisionero cuando vio el fusil?
Él cuando vio el fusil que yo lo había dejado del lado de él y que yo me había dado cuenta, yo intenté ir hacia el fusil y él me dijo me hizo seña con la mano, que me quedara tranquilo, que me hizo seña que él lo único que quería hacer era seguir jugando al ping pong, me dice.
The soldiers couldn't speak English. I mean, I'm guessing they were conscripts, and I suppose overall, there was a reasonable relationship between us, but we couldn't communicate. The day they showed me the magazine, and they were all sort of laughing and cocky, and I was just saying rubbish and shaking my head. We couldn't have a conversation. In the courtyard, there'd be a couple of them at the far end, just to make sure I didn't leave the courtyard. But we didn't have any relationship, and I was stuck in this plaster cast, just shuffling around. But any thoughts of playing table tennis with the guards, is quite ridiculous, because I'd never saw a table tennis table, and I was in no fit state to play any sort of sport. So no, there was no relationship with the guards, which was interesting, because about 2 weeks later, the attitude of the guards towards me, which had been relatively friendly, it suddenly changed overnight, and I just sensed that Argentina had obviously lost the war. One night I was in the room, and a bunch of them just started banging on the door and shouting, and just generally being a bit aggressive.
¿Qué trato le dieron los ingleses después de la rendición?
Sí, cuando desembarcaron, el primero que se presentó era un teniente coronel médico, al cual se le mostraron los casos que teníamos internados, y luego este hombre se retiró. Nos indicaron que marcháramos a Puerto Howard, al puerto. El puerto se halla distante aproximadamente entre 10 y 15 cuadras. ¿Quién sabe 10? Y ahí tomé conciencia de la falta de fuerzas que yo tenía, es decir, sufrí un excesivo adelgazamiento y me era imposible transportar el bolsón portaequipo, con lo cual, gracias a Dios, un soldado que teníamos me ayudó al transporte del mismo, hasta llegar al puerto, donde ahí embarcamos. La recepción en Puerto Madryn no fue como la esperábamos, porque pensábamos de que al venir derrotado el pueblo nos iba a repudiar. Y sin embargo, cuando salimos del puerto, de donde estaba atracado el Canberra, Nos llevaron en colectivos. Apenas salimos del puerto nos encontramos con gente de la población local con banderas que nos aplaudían, nos aclamaban y no lo podíamos creer honestamente. Eso de parte de la gente. Cuando llegamos a la ciudad de Puerto Madryn, a unos galpones donde nos concentraban, bueno, eso era la debacle. La falta de organización. ¿Por qué? Porque los soldados deambulaban por un lado, los suboficiales por otro, los oficiales los que bajamos unidos, es decir, de la compañía de sanidad, era la desesperación de tratar de encontrar nuestra gente.
Cuando ustedes finalmente fueron trasladados a Buenos Aires, el ejército los mantuvo detenidos en la escuela de suboficiales Lemus. ¿Lo decepcionó ese recibimiento?
Pero por supuesto, y eso fue uno de los principales motivos que me llevaron a irme de la fuerza. Es decir, el hecho de que, si bien evidentemente perdimos la contienda, lo cual no éramos de ningunos delincuentes para que nos tomaran de esa manera, encontrándonos detenidos y no permitiéndonos el contacto con nuestros familiares, por lo menos los que nos venían a visitar. Eso crea una situación de mucho dolor, que hace que uno no lo olvide esas cosas. Estábamos todos ansiosos por llegar. Llegamos acá a Curuzucuatiá, calculo que fue, sí, pleno, antes del mediodía, 10 de la mañana. Y bueno, y en la estación estaba mi señora, estaban los chicos esperándonos. Y veníamos con muy sensibleros, nos causaba, es decir, el hecho nos causaba llanto fácil, un cuadro evidentemente psiquiátrico, de depresión.
Papá llegó un mediodía. Lo fuimos a recibir a la estación de tren, pero no lo reconocí cuando pasó delante de mí. Tenía 40 kilos menos y la mirada perdida. Estaba deprimido y no quería trabajar como médico. Llevaba la derrota por dentro como una vergüenza que arrastraba a toda la familia. Todo lo que hacía era salir a correr con la excusa de prepararse para volver a recuperar las Malvinas. Hasta el día en que se peleó con sus generales y nos fuimos a vivir a una casa en el pueblo en la que apenas entrábamos.
Lo que se demostró del punto de vista logístico fue un error total. Gracias al coraje de la gente, no la pasamos peor, porque lo que se hacía era a base de coraje. Usted piense de que no, para mantener un armamento en un lugar húmedo, con lluvia, usted necesita tener lubrilina para mantener que el cañón no se oxide, que el mecanismo funcione correctamente lubricado. No había. El Regimiento 5 en Puerto Howard no tenía lubrilina para mantener los fusiles FAL. Eso es una barbaridad. llevar una ametralladora 12,5 que no recupere y pueda accionar en forma automática. Enviar municiones de cañón del 105 y no haber llegar la dotación de gente que tenía que atender el cañón, la munición y no llegar el cañón. Si a usted le parece de que eso, un señor general, señores coroneles, señores teniente coroneles, no lo podrían haber previsto, entonces ¿para qué tenemos el ejército argentino? Desgraciadamente, mi opinión es muy dura, quien sabe me cree problemas con gente de la fuerza, pero es lo que yo siento. Y si hay alguien que me lo pueda demostrar de que estoy equivocado, yo se lo agradecería.
The third time Massimo Cataldi visited, he confirmed that the war was over and that the British had won. And then I sort of said, oh well, good, I'll be going home soon, do you think? And he said, you know, he didn't know, but that I should be prepared to, you know, possibly have to stay on for some length of time. So I was sort of, I mean, I was pleased that we'd won the war, but he wasn't sure whether I would be released immediately or not. So I sort of had to mentally prepare for another 2 or 3 weeks before his next visit. I didn't want to get my hopes up too quickly. After the first visit of the International Red Cross chap, I was writing a letter and handing it to the officer who occasionally visited for the letter to be posted to the UK. And then on the very last day, just before returning to Buenos Aires, or going to Buenos Aires, he handed me all the letters. And I said, you didn't send them then? And he said, no. And so I just took the letters, and that was pretty annoying. Yeah, then eventually flew back to Buenos Aires. And then I was transferred to a big hospital, I think a big military hospital in Buenos Aires, where I was expecting to spend one night and then get repatriated, but in the event it was 2 nights. And in fact, during the day at some point, a doctor who had treated me in Port Stanley came in to see me, and then he saw how my shoulder had turned out, because now that the plaster cast was off, the shoulder was sort of sticking up high, and I'm pretty sure that sort of tears came to his eye because he didn't like what he'd seen. And that's when I realised I think I should have been just in this loose sling all the time. But yeah, he asked me how I was, and I asked him how he was, and he'd been home for a week or 2, having, you know, got back from the islands. So yeah, nice chap. And then, so after the second day, eventually got taken to an airport and flown out by the military to Montevideo, where I was met by the British Embassy staff. was pretty euphoric. We got into the embassy Jaguar to drive to the ambassador's residence. It was a lady ambassador. Having got to the residence, I had a cup of tea and then went outside and there were some cameras and television, and I did 5 minutes at the front of the ambassador's residence saying yes, it was glad to be free, to be freed, and etc., etc., and give my wife, send my wife my love, sort of thing. But then I sort of escaped back to inside the residence, and we had a nice lunch, a few gin and tonic. I mean, the food at Chamical was very poor, and when I weighed myself at the ambassador's house, I was 9 stone 3, so I'd lost probably about 1.5 stone in weight. Don't know what that is in kilos, but probably 10 kilos or so, 8 or 10 kilos in weight. I was quite thin and very bony on the shoulder, but otherwise I was fit. And then the following evening flew out, heading back to the UK, and was met at London Gatwick by my wife and the station commander and his wife, which was very nice. And then we jumped on an RAF military executive jet back to RAF Wittering, and I remember arriving, it was a Saturday afternoon, probably about 3 o'clock, and yeah, there were about, I don't know, 150 people there to meet me on the tarmac, which was very nice, including my mum and dad. They were at the bottom of the steps as I got off, and then the rest of the squadron, pilots, it was they'd got home, and sort of met Jerry again and Bob Iveson. He'd also ejected, and then the other guys, and we had a bit of a party. It was really nice.
Una vez al mes, mis hermanas y yo íbamos con mamá a hacer compras a Uruguayana. Hacíamos un trayecto en auto de 2 horas y cruzábamos el puente de Paso de los Libres, que para mí era la llave al mundo mágico de Brasil, con sus jugueterías enormes. Después supe que en esos años, en ese mismo puente, secuestraban a personas y las torturaban. Los organismos de derechos humanos que investigaron a los militares que estuvieron en contacto con Jeff Glover solo encontraron antecedentes en sus archivos del general Omar Edgardo Parada. Entre 1980 y 1982, Parada estuvo a cargo de la Brigada de Infantería 3, que controlaba una amplia zona de la provincia de Corrientes, incluyendo Paso de los Libres. En las afueras, muy cerca del puente internacional, estaba La Polaca. La Polaca es una chacra denunciada como centro clandestino de detención por la que habrían pasado 100 de secuestrados. El caso se conoció por las declaraciones de Carlos Wayne, un ex agente de inteligencia del ejército que contó que en algunas habitaciones el ambiente era irrespirable por el olor nauseabundo y que allí los secuestrados permanecían desnudos, encapuchados y encadenados mientras los torturaban con corriente eléctrica. posible que el general Parada, jefe militar y también responsable de la zona, desconociera la existencia de la polaca y lo que allí sucedía?
¿Le costó volver a ejercer la medicina después de la guerra?
Sí. Y con el transcurso del tiempo, porque ya han pasado 25 años o más, uno se da cuenta de que en los primeros casos atendidos y que hubo errores que se pudieron salvar, pero errores en la atención del paciente. ¿Por qué? Bueno, porque uno no se encuentra bien. Después, con el paso del tiempo, se va olvidando y se va corrigiendo.
I mean, I can sort of hardly remember most of the stuff now, but shortly after the event, you used to think about the trauma, the ejection, and sort of being held prisoner. Yeah, that would be in your mind quite a lot, or you'd think about it a lot during the day. But now I don't think about it at all. It's 27 years and the memory fades.
Pero a mí honestamente me hacía sentir muy mal seguir en el hospital.
¿Por qué?
Y porque usted imagínese que usted tiene el recuerdo de que usted designó a la gente que iba a concurrir al teatro de operaciones y que esa gente después no volvió. Entonces hace de que sea un constante círculo vicioso de llegar al hospital, recordar, y le crea un estado anímico desagradable, donde ya todo le cae mal, y bueno, y hace que uno se determina a tomar la decisión de irse.
I was feeling pretty sorry for myself because I was fairly badly injured and I could only see out of one eye, and my shoulder was, my arm was broken, and a few other things. So I was feeling fairly sorry for myself, but at the same time I was feeling as though I'd let the side down. I'd just lost a Harrier. We'd only brought 6 down with us in the RAF from the UK, and I'd just lost one of them. So I was feeling pretty low for that reason as well. Yeah.
El general Parada solo fue imputado por la justicia por su mal desempeño en la Guerra de Malvinas, donde abandonó a sus tropas. Murieron muchos de sus hombres, algunos de hambre. Parada fue absuelto y hoy vive tranquilo en uno de los barrios más caros de la ciudad de Buenos Aires. Nunca aceptó una entrevista para este documental. Papá se fue del ejército después de la derrota de Malvinas. Todavía me pregunto por qué no lo hizo antes. También me pregunto qué hubiera pasado si los militares que recibieron las órdenes de secuestrar, torturar y hacer desaparecer personas hubieran dicho que no. Papá se negó y no recibió sanciones por eso. Ahora mismo, en muchos lugares del mundo, obedeciendo órdenes contrarias a los derechos de las personas, se sigue secuestrando, torturando y asesinando. Está en manos de quienes reciben estas órdenes que no suceda. Basta con decir no.